Today on the Strive Show, we'll be talking about why high performers crash. Welcome to the Strive Show. I'm Dr. Jake Grinaker, and together with the amazing doctors at Strive Chiropractic, our phenomenal team, and some extraordinary guests along the way, we will be in the pursuit of truth in all things health, life, and family. We believe you not only can handle the truth, you deserve it. Enjoy the show. Hey guys, welcome back to another episode of the Strive Show. Today we're talking about why high performers crash. This has actually been such a big topic. We just wrote an article for it in Fargo Inc. magazine. First, it's coming out. You haven't seen this one yet. Should be next month that it'll be out, depending on when you watch this. But this idea came up because we're seeing it a lot in the office when these people, whether it's, a mom who's got 50 different pots on the fire and things that they're running around to and jobs and stresses, or corner office people or students that are just go until they feel themselves crashing. And this was coming up enough. We said we probably should talk about this.
Yeah, absolutely. Like you see it a lot. Those people that, overachievers that just think they can just push through everything and get through everything and keep getting everything done. And eventually they're just going to hit a wall and they're going to crash out and burn out.
Yeah. So I think the biggest thing to note right away is if you're feeling that or you're experiencing that or have experience in that, like, you're not alone. This is something, like you said, big enough that we had submitted an article about it into a local magazine. But this idea that people are really confused by it. And geez, what does that look like when you crash? Whether it be I'm getting sick, headaches, whether it's like I just complete adrenal fatigue, can't get out of bed, or just lack of motivation, for a bit, whatever that looks like for you. The crash looks different for people.
For sure. And I think I was just actually, when you're reading through the article, like, it's funny how a lot of times, like, when I look at like people's intake paperwork when they come in, they'll come in for something what, they or we would consider more musculoskeletal, but then you start looking at some of the other boxes they're checking, anxiety, fatigue, how they handle stress, all that kind of stuff that, kind of correlates and ties in with that they're just not really paying a whole lot of attention to.
So that's a great point. It's very rarely one thing. It's kind of like it just becomes this slew of things on what it is. And I think the biggest thing to start understanding about this is we were not designed to be on all the time. We were meant to take like short bursts of like intensity, short bursts of stress, short bursts of, you think back, to hunter-gatherer times, right? It's just short bursts of stress, not living in it 24/7.
Correct. And that's why we want that, and we've talked about that in the past, that teeter-totter of when we need to have that, ability to turn on and to deal with stress, we can do that, but we also need that ability to be able to turn that off and to kind of come back down.
And what we're seeing with high achievers is not even necessarily that they don't have the ability, they're just never allowing themselves to get into it.
For sure.
When you're constantly dealing with work deadlines, you're constantly trying to push through everything and, get done 50 things in a day. I feel like I'm talking to us, here too. Get done 50 things in a day when we probably should only get done 4. Like, eventually that's going to catch up.
For sure.
No matter how high performing you are, no matter how good you are pushing through, that stuff will catch up.
For sure. And at some point, your body's going to be like, enough's enough, right? And even though maybe in our minds we think we can continue to push through it and continue to get things done, at some point our body's going to say, enough's enough.
So the way we describe it a lot, to whether it be high performers or just other stuff going on with people in the office, is that it's like a blown fuse.
For sure.
Right? When you think about all the stresses and all the things you're trying to accomplish, it's like you keep plugging things into that outlet. Well, eventually the fuse blows. That blown fuse is that imbalance in your nervous system that Brian was talking about. That blown fuse does just send you into fight or flight, send you into sympathetic dominance, send you into, oh my gosh, everything's got to happen now. That blown fuse is what makes you stuck there, and the inability to come out of it to get back into that rest and digest.
And that's what a lot of times, we call dysregulation. Right? It's just the inability to be able to regulate going back and forth between that sympathetic and parasympathetic and getting those both to turn on when we need them to turn on.
And this is something that's been discussed and talked about for years. That was just the new buzzword. So awesome. Thanks for bringing that up. The one talked about a lot right now is this nervous system dysregulation is a big one. brain fog, fatigue, burnout, a lot of different names for it. But it's this idea of your body was stuck in fight or flight too long, you burned out, and you just now crashed is what happens. And that's what we're dealing with, whether on a big macro scale, like, oh my gosh, your health is falling apart, or a micro scale, like, why am I so tired all the time?
For sure. Yeah. And that's, like I said, it's just that stuff that we see like every day. And the biggest thing is like coming in and showing like how or why, they're dealing or having those symptoms. And more importantly, like, how do we fix those? How do we get those? How do we unplug those things from from the outlet and flip that breaker?
Yep.
How do we do that?
Yeah. Such a good point. Such a good lead in too, Brian, is that when we do meet those people, we describe it that exact same way. You have a blown fuse in your house. What do you need to do? Well, I'd probably start by unplugging a few things from the outlet, or the moment you flip the breaker back on, it's blowing again. Right?
Yep.
And you have to start controlling some of those stresses on your own. You have to identify them, to start dealing with them, to start handling them so they don't become overwhelming. That's first.
Yep.
But even if you unplugged all that stuff from the outlet, your lights aren't coming back on. You need that fuse blown. And that's the hard part when you meet some people, is when they're like, man, I've done all these things. I've removed this stress from my life. I've started doing walks in the morning and prayer and all this kind of stuff. And I just still feel like this blah. I'm like, well, we need to flip your breaker back on.
Yeah.
And that's exactly what we do here.
100%. Yep. And, like, we'll take people through our scans, and that's a really great tool to kind of show, like, where is that fuse blown?
Yeah.
Right? It's not a matter of just starting to flip fuses and flip breakers. It's important to know like which ones we need to flip so that we can help them make that switch and make that improvement.
You nailed it. Nailed it. So I think that the idea is, if you're watching, you are that person who's normally a really high performer. Man, you're getting a lot of stuff done, and you just feel like, man, I'm struggling.
For sure. Yep.
Right now, I would first look at your own life and see what outlets you can unplug, what things you can unplug from your outlet, and then don't beat yourself up. If you do those things and you're like, man, I'm not there yet.
Yeah.
Call, text, get in here, help you flip that breaker back on so you can go back to accomplishing all the things that you want to.
And being a high performer, there's nothing wrong with that.
Gosh.
I mean, it's an awesome thing. And I think, being able to come in and help flip that breaker is actually going to help you
that much
be a better performer, when it comes to doing the stuff in your daily life.
Yeah. And the other thing too to look at too is that you look at a professional athlete, high performance vehicle, whatever it may be, those are the things that are taking more maintenance.
For sure.
And if you're going to operate that way, you also got to start treating your body that way. You got to also be fueling yourself the way you should, being in here maybe more than someone who's not that high performer, because you need that breaker flip more often than someone else. Like, none of those things are bad things. It's just, you have to identify them if that's you. And if it is, then cool, what do we need to do about it?
Yeah. Like you just said, take a little bit more, like you said, those high performing cars, take a little bit more maintenance, take a little better fuel. And you gotta be able to do that in order to prolong the life of that car and that performance. And same with ourselves.
This is such a great conversation. These are things that, again, some of these topics have come up again, or at least parts of them, but it's something that we're seeing so often that we can't just not talk about it more. But if you identify yourself into these things, man, just reach out. Let us help you. Let us do the evaluation. Brian mentioned the scans. Let us look at all the stuff that we can to find out if and where there's that blown fuse, and what we can do to help you flip it back on to keep living your best life.
Absolutely. Yeah. Just get checked.
Just get checked. Actually, justgetchecked.com. You can go there and actually book yourself if you want to do that. So, but anyways, guys, until next time, appreciate you watching and tuning in. We'll see you next time. Thanks for tuning into The Strive Show. Whether you are watching this on YouTube or listening to the podcast on your favorite platform, make sure you hit subscribe so you never miss an episode. And if you found value in today's episode, please share it with a loved one. We would be honored. Thanks, and have a fantastic week.